Hello and welcome to the Healing Insight podcast, episode 32, with me, Sarah Hunt.
And me, Jez Hunt.
Hello, and here we are again. It's great to be with you again, Jay. We've got an interesting topic for today. I've got no idea quite how this is going to go, but I'm sure we will be guided with how to chat about this one. Today, we're going to be looking at creating a healing habit.
Indeed. And I have no idea how this is going to go either, but let's just see where we go with it.
See where it leads us. I think it's important to perhaps look at what healing is. And healing is not necessarily doing things like I do with energy or by working with crystals or NLP or coaching. And those are aspects of healing. But there's an awful lot of things that we do that are healing without realizing that they're healing.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So to me, healing can also be just being with someone, spending time with them. It can be being open to listening without needing to comment, but just listening and allowing the person to voice their concerns and perhaps process information without being told or advised to do this, that, or the other, but just allowed to voice that voice any information they need to. But it can be things like things that are nurturing for yourself. So for me, going for a swim, I try and go at least once a week for a swim, because to me it's very healing. It allows me to shut off. It exercises my body. It gives me time for myself. But it could be something like getting in the bath with a load of candles around you. Anything really that's nurturing and being kind and loving towards yourself has a healing effect. Yeah. And it's important for us to make sure that we are doing things and saying things that are healing, and also to remember that it's not just the actions that we take, but the words that we use and the thoughts that we have. They're all energy and they all affect people, and so your words can either have a very healing effect or they can cause upset and trauma. Equally, your thoughts as well. People will pick up on your thoughts even if you don't realize that. And certainly, one of the things I say to people when they ask me about my work and how I tune into people's energy is I say to them, have you ever thought of somebody and then they phoned you 5 minutes later? That's you picking up on their energy. That's you picking up on their thoughts. And when you've walked into a room where you can feel the energy of it, where you can feel there's been an argument, that's you picking up on it. I just do it in a more formal, tuned in way. So we're all, as we're moving forward, because we are moving forward into a much more heart-led, heart-centered way of being, we all need to be much more aware of our thoughts, our words, our actions, and making sure that they're kind, they're loving, and therefore healing, rather than unkind and not healing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So yeah, I mean, just to add to your list of things, walking in nature is a big one. I mean, just for self-healing, for just connecting with nature, with yourself, with your thoughts and that about other people. I think the thoughts particularly, well, and the self-talk. I mean, how many times have you dropped something and, okay, I'll say have I dropped something and said, oh, you idiot? Or, I'm not an idiot for dropping something. It doesn't make me an idiot by the definition of what an idiot is. But that self-deprivation, that self-criticism is a negative energy pattern that you're creating. The
Yeah.
same with thoughts about yourself. Oh, I don't feel confident. If if you've got that whole self-worth, if you're struggling with self-worth, for example, then you can go down the whole pattern of thought of, I'm not good enough, I can't do that, I'm not able to do that. So that then exacerbates the situation. So to me, this creating a healing habit is firstly learning to recognize, so creating the habit of, is this thought, sentence, phrase, action something that is loving, kind, and healing towards myself or somebody else, if it's related to
Absolutely.
someone else, and then making that a habit, making it something that you do with conscious intention.
Yes. Yes. And it's important not just towards yourself, but towards others.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and also, I think it's important to recognize, and this is something that I've always said to my students, because very few of my students actually want to be healers like I am, and do treatments on people as a living. And I say to people, that I say to them, healers are in all walks of life, and we all heal in different ways, and it might be just sitting and holding somebody's hand when they're upset. Look at how we pick a child up that's fallen over and rub their knee, and give them a kiss and tell them they're okay, and take them and perhaps bathe the knee if it needs it. That's healing in itself, just by doing that. And yet people don't realize that that's what they're doing. They're doing something that's actually very healing. So I think it's just that we need to be more consciously aware of what we're thinking, how we're behaving, what we're saying, so that we are as loving as possible in everything that we do, think, and say.
yeah. I think there's also a lot of, I think there's a misconception with a number of people, a lot of people, in terms of what healing is, and it is all encompassing, as you've said. I think that people can think, oh well, if I break an arm, it gets put in a cast, it's 6 weeks and then it's mended. Or if I've got an illness and I go and see a doctor and they give me some drugs, and then after that course of drugs is over, then I'm going to be cured. So it's almost like it can be the perception can be that I wait till I feel ill, for want of a phrase to use, wait till I feel ill, then go and get something about it. Whereas actually healing is an ongoing day-to-day thing. It's not one-off
Mm.
events that happen through your life. It's
No.
every minute of every day
Yes.
something is happening in terms of, or could be happening in terms of healing ourselves and understanding.
Yes, absolutely. And we're healing on many different levels at various different times. And I think that's really important to understand and to recognize that we are all healers in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily need to be a practitioner to be a healer. We are healing whenever we're kind to somebody. We're healing whenever we are loving towards somebody. And it's when we're not that we need to be looking at and going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And this is going to become so much more important as we move forward. We've been made to think that healing is about, like you said, we're ill, we go and get help from outside, but actually we need to be addressing issues as they come up to us in our everyday lives, so that we are constantly addressing things and looking to be the best we possibly can, looking to be as heart-centered as possible, as heart-led as possible, as compassionate as possible as well. Because that person that's just snapped your head off, you don't know what's happened in their journey. You don't know what's happened that morning with them. And so actually being as loving and compassionate and kind as possible is better than reacting to that situation. It's like we've talked about on many occasions about the importance of stepping back and responding rather than reacting to a situation. But it's important to recognize that there are many different ways that we can help ourselves to heal, but also help others to heal.
Yeah.
And it's often something as simple as just sitting and listening, or sitting and holding a hand, or giving a child a cuddle, or even another adult a big hug. That can be as healing as them going for a coaching session, or an energy healing session, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And an the main benefit of doing daily healing or regular healing in any of the ways, any and all of the ways that we've mentioned, and the ones we haven't, is that we're moving and shifting the energy through us, and we're not holding on to negative energy or energy that's not serving us. And if we allow that to go, then we're less likely to be physically ill
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's moving through us, and we're allowing it to flow rather than holding on to that grief or that hatred or that anger or that
Mm.
whatever it might be.
And unfortunately, we've been taught to hold on to things and to push them down inside us, when actually emotions, we need to acknowledge them, and allow ourselves to feel them.
Yeah.
And that's different to allowing ourselves to take things out on other people.
Yes.
Feeling the anger that we're experiencing, recognizing the anger and allowing it to flow through and go again, is very different to having an angry outburst to somebody, and taking it out on them. But allowing ourselves to feel the emotions allows ourselves to heal as well, because it like you said, it allows that energy to flow through us. And for us to acknowledge that we are angry, we are jealous, we're hurt, whatever it might be, and it's okay to feel like that. And I
Yes.
think that's another thing as well. We're taught we shouldn't be angry, we shouldn't be jealous, we shouldn't be um feel hurt. But actually, there are different experiences that create those emotions, and it's okay to feel like that. But what isn't okay is to take it out on other people. What isn't okay is to actually harbor those feelings within us. We need to be letting go of them, because the person that we actually end up hurting the most is ourselves.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things that's really important. And therefore, the first person that we need to be doing healing, loving things for is ourself. And that comes back to that podcast that we did a while back, first love yourself. It comes to this, or first heal yourself as
Yeah.
well. And certainly, for me, with the energy healing cosmic heart that I teach, and I do, it's all about healing your first self first and foremost. And you can't work on somebody else or facilitate healing for somebody else unless you're willing to heal yourself first and foremost. And that's how it should always be. We always need to be healing ourselves first, because there's a big ripple effect that happens. And when I heal myself, it uplifts me, it clears out old patterns that I don't need. That then affects the way that I react and respond to other people, which has a healing effect on them. That then affects the way that they react and respond to others. And so it flows out. And actually, by us doing healing things for ourselves, that has a ripple effect on the whole population, because it just ripples out to everybody, because we are all connected. So and equally, if we're in a bad mood, the energy of that will touch everybody around you, which will touch everybody around them, which will go out. And okay, to a lesser degree, it will have an effect, but it will still have an effect. So the more healing things we can do that help us to feel good about ourselves, that help us to love ourselves more, to be kind to ourselves, then that has a big effect on everybody else.
Yeah. Just want to go back to a point you made about hurting yourself mostly. Just think back to, this is for the listeners and us really, but just think back to any time that something's happened. So someone said something to you, or messaged you, or sent an email, or whatever form of communication. And we've taken that action, that comment in the way that we've taken it. And we've taken it with possibly a negative context. And we then start harboring annoyance, frustration, hate, whatever, whatever it is, depending on the situation. And yet the other person may not even have registered that that's how we've taken it. And it wasn't meant in that way. It wasn't intended in that way. We've talked about this communication before, about making sure that we're responsible for how we receive something as someone else, as we are also responsible for how we say something. And we can build up this story of something that's happened that hasn't actually happened and take all of that on board. The only person we're hurting is ourselves, because we're harboring this stuff that doesn't even exist in reality, but we've perceived or filtered that message or that action in a particular way that we've then built up to be a big, oh my God, that person's against me and or hates me, or whatever variant that we come up with. But actually, it's not even there. So we can we can be very good at creating something negative out of something that didn't even exist as a negative. Is that getting a bit too complex? And I think that's something else to is just to be aware of, is if we go with the intention of being kind and loving to ourselves and to everyone else, then it's not about making excuses for the other person, because as we talked in the last episode about recognizing that things are reflected to us for a reason, for a learning. So it's not necessarily making excuses for the other person, but just take a step back and, okay, what's actually going on here? What's triggering? What's coming up for me? Why am I feeling that is how that person's reacting or responding to me? In terms of something else that's popped into mind, was how often have you smiled at someone either in a shopping queue, walking towards you when you're out for a walk? And yes, sometimes they'll completely ignore you and you won't get any smile back. But more often than not, you get smiles back and people will engage with you. I mean, I know years ago, I think I've mentioned this on one of the podcasts before as well. Years ago, living in Cranfield, if I walked down the street, went for a walk, then pretty much everyone that I came across would be, oh, hello, 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 hello. Everyone was hello. Yeah. Nowadays, it's very rare, unless you move out into the country. I mean, round Barrow, where I live, everyone seems very friendly. It's very easy to get a hello, good morning, good afternoon, or whatever from people. But when I was living in Bedford, you'd be lucky if someone spoke to you or even looked at you, let alone actually connected in that way.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? I well, probably because I walk a dog, that probably helps a bit.
Yeah.
I do get smiles from people, but I did have somebody that I don't know stopped and talked about dogs the other day, which was quite interesting, and he was telling me he'd got a new dog. But that's a rare occurrence, But I've got a couple of people now when I'm out with Charlie that recognise me and have seen me walk past, if I'm going locally rather than out to the woods or whatever, who will stop and say hi and how are you now. But that's taken several years of walking past them, for them to actually say it. And it is sad that people are not as open to a smile and a good morning or a good afternoon and a how are you or whatever, isn't it?
And just imagine how different the world would be if everyone just walked by. I mean, it's not even having a conversation, it's just a smile.
Smile.
Just
there's a Spike Milligan poem. Do you remember it? Smiling is infectious. I can't remember how it goes. I'd have to look it up. But it's basically smiling is infectious. And if you smile at somebody, then they'll smile at somebody else, and so we'll take a smile all around the world. Essentially, was what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true. If you smile at someone and they smile back at you, that makes you feel good. So you smile at the next person, they'll smile at the next person, and you get a bit of a ripple effect going on there as well. So And a smile can be very healing as well. You know, if somebody's really struggling and they get a smile from someone, then they that can be enough to lift them and help them to feel better in themselves, can't it? And therefore, it's had a healing effect.
Yeah. So going back to the topic title, creating a
Yes.
healing habit, then yes, it could be to do with healing sessions and having a regular healing session or a regular coaching session or a regular journaling session or a regular walk in the park or whatever it is. It could be a combination of those, because I do all of those. But it could be just finding 2 or 3 people a day when you're out and about, just smile at them. And if they don't smile back, it doesn't matter. You have put that intention out there. You have smiled. They may or may not notice it, but trust me, you will feel better for doing it.
Yes, absolutely.
Just stop for a moment and just say, oh, hello, good morning. And if they look like they weren't engaged in a conversation, just have a quick conversation. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very healing in its own way, isn't it? But also remember as well that doing things that you love are healing.
Yeah.
So for us both,
Painting.
painting is very healing. Going out for your walks in nature or along by the sea, doing any creative project that you like doing, something that you enjoy doing, whatever it might be, whether it's sport, whether it's making things, whether it's doing jigsaws, whether it's playing games with the family, you know, all those things actually have a healing effect
Yes.
because they're things that you love, they're things that you enjoy, they're things that bring joy. And that's just reminded me of something I saw in a film last night, and someone was struggling with something, and they were told to always do what brings them joy. I thought, yeah, it's
What
just kind
makes
of
your heart sing?
thing. Yes, do what makes your heart sing, but do what brings you joy, what makes you feel happy. Because when you're happy, it's having a healing effect on you.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, try and make it a habit to do things every day that are kind, loving, compassionate, and therefore healing for you and for everybody else. And this is where we need to be in that kind of mindset going forward, with the planetary changes that are going on, and we are being shifted into a more heart-centered, heart-led way of being, and therefore a more healing way of being. And so it is really important for us to bring our awareness to whether we are being loving and kind and compassionate and therefore healing, or whether we're not. And if we're not, then we need to kind of acknowledge that and put ourselves up on it and make changes.
Yeah.
But it's having the awareness of when we're not, so that we can do something about it, is really important.
Yeah. So it could be something as simple as, if you're not one for going out walking and that, it could be something as simple as picking up your phone or whatever and just messaging someone and saying, just thinking of you.
Yeah.
If it's someone you haven't spoken to for a while, or someone that you spoke to this morning, it doesn't matter. It could be just a little thing. It doesn't have to be anything major. But if you start doing this on a daily basis, if you make it part of your day, your routine, you will naturally start to feel better in yourself anyway.
Absolutely.
Let alone the ripple effect, as you've said, that then can pan out across the world by you being kind to someone, them then being kind to someone else because you've made their day, and then it does have this ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh. So there you go. We did turn it into something.
We did indeed. Interesting. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else that I want to say on the subject for today.
No, I think I'm done with that one as well.
Okay, so
Until
thank
next
you very much
time.
for your time. Till next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.